Let's start with the introductions. So first and foremost, I'm Ahmed Gewiley, Customer Success Manager at Hivebrite, and I'm joined today by my colleague, Customer Success Manager Ria Kapluck, and Brandon Tabor, Senior Director of Annual Giving at the University of Notre Dame. Happy to have you both with us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to our audience, please be aware that throughout the session, if you have any questions at all, you can use that Q&A box and we'll do our best to answer all or most of them at the end. We would also love to read more about your Giving Tuesday strategies, goals, challenges, etc. So let us know via the chat and we'll kind of try to highlight those comments as they come through. So now with the introductions out of the way, I think we can get this discussion started because we have a lot to discuss, a lot of cool tips and strategies to get into. So Brandon, how are you doing today?
I am so good. I've been so excited to chat about this stuff and share some of what we know, but also like that poll right at the beginning energized me because I felt at home with the people that like know the industry that we're in and we're all thinking about the same stuff. So just excited to be in community with everybody here.
Great, cool. I'm glad to hear that. And Ria, real quick, how are you doing on this fine day?
I'm good. I am lovely. The sun is shining. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Great. I'll say the same. I'm pretty having a good day. It's Thursday. Great. So Brandon, to kick things off, could you tell us a little bit more about how Giving Tuesday is organized at Notre Dame?
Yeah. So Giving Tuesday was a campaign at Notre Dame that we started for our first time last year. And we had some hesitations about participating in Giving Tuesday because there was this notion that Giving Tuesday is kind of like Small Business Saturday. It's like this is like your local small nonprofits participate in it. It does good in the communities and in communities around the world. But we challenged our previous thinking and we said, we're trying to, our goal here at Notre Dame, we exist at the University of Notre Dame to serve humanity through the education that we provide and the research that we do. And so it's critically important for us that when we have amazing students who are bright and their mission in life is not only just to get a degree and go earn a living, but to get a degree so they can serve others, we have to do everything we can, every opportunity to help fund their education. So for our team, about 90% of the dollars that we raise is all for financial aid. It's for student scholarships and shaping their student experience. So we said, you know what, we're going to go all in on Giving Tuesday. And we ended up doing this email and social campaign. So it was strictly digital. And we applied, we'll talk about this today, but some of our best practices in shaping fundraising campaigns that applies to Giving Tuesday, but to really everything. And that's really the structure of Giving Tuesday at Notre Dame. One thing we did last year that was really successful was we found a matching gift and we kind of structured it, I think, kind of cleverly. And then we'll talk about that when you're ready. And then we really use Giving Tuesday as a moment that we build to, not like a day where we say, it's Giving Tuesday, today's the day you should give. We try to say, in anticipation of Giving Tuesday in this thing, help us get to this spot.
Got it. Very cool. And I could tell you're like chomping at the bit to tell us all the details. You're like, we'll get to it. So let's jump in. Could you tell me more about how you design your fundraising campaigns?
Sure can. Yeah. Probably one of the most important things we'll talk about in this entire webinar, and that has been like the most powerful piece for me in my career and how our team operates, is what we call our storytelling process. And this is something everyone can take out a pen and a piece of paper right now and write down this, like it's the shortest, simplest thing in the world, but every campaign that we develop, we run it through this process where we ask ourselves, who is the audience? What do we want them to walk away thinking, feeling, or doing? What are the channels that we're going to use to reach that audience? Right. What are the goals, or like, what does great look like? Like, let's set that. Let's even goals is kind of a bad word. What does great look like? What would we be happy with? And then finally, what are the stories that we're going to tell that audience to make them think, feel, do that through that channel to help us reach that goal? And when we're structuring Giving Tuesday at Notre Dame, the poll right up front, I mean, it hit all three of these things. That's probably why I'm chomping at the bit. You know, did you need new donors? You know, everyone's like, well, yeah. And then like, do you need more like fundraising revenue? Everyone said, yeah. And then we said, do you need to be able to tell like really good stories that inspire giving? And everyone said, yes. And so like, I'm like, this is the greatest gift we can give, is to say, follow this. And so for us, we said, who's like one of our, and I'll give you an example, like who's one of our audiences at for Giving Tuesday? Well, we talked about this earlier in the poll, new donors, right? Like, how do I get like new, we just need to get our pipeline filled. So we say, okay, audience is new donors. What do we want them to walk away thinking, feeling, or doing? And at Notre Dame, it could be something like, or at any nonprofit, like, Giving Tuesday is a really good moment. Like, kind of the world is called to give, and like this would be a great place to make a gift because I want to impact their mission. And your channels matter. Like if it's your channel is video, if it's YouTube, then you're going to probably tell a story a little different through video than you would through a newsletter, an email, or if it's one-to-one fundraising, a personal conversation, you know, your stories might change. So then for us, we try to say, like, let's get 1,000 donors. Let's try to get 1,000 donors. Let's try to get, you know, 1,000 donors, $400,000 in revenue, just throwing out some numbers. So at least we have something to benchmark from. And then we start to go, what are the stories we can tell that could drive this audience to do that? I'll give you a second audience. So we talked about like our kind of like the new donors, the people we're trying to recruit to give. We also had that other population that I think like maybe like 30%, 37% of the people were interested in, was like, how do we get increased revenue from people who already give to us? And for us, we do that too. So we have one audience that is like new donors, and we try to tell them things like, you know, gifts of all sizes to the university make a big difference. For example, last year, gifts of $200 or less fully funded the financial aid scholarships of 57 deserving Notre Dame students. Your gift today on Giving Tuesday of any size will help the next generation of our children go serve the world. And so it's like, you know, small dollar gifts matter. Just get in the habit of giving, you know, and we talk about impact right away. But you got these people who you want to renew their gift to. And that person gave $100 last year. And you might say, hey, Ria, last year you gave a gift of $100. And this year on Giving Tuesday, we're trying to, you know, reach X goal or accomplish this thing. Will you please renew your gift of $100 or increase your impact to $125 so that we can shatter our Giving Tuesday record and go achieve this result, go advance our mission, go serve these people, go live out this thing. And so we're one person we asked just to make a gift of any size. At Notre Dame, we see that average gift come in at about $37. When we know Ria's previous behavior, that person who's a renewal, we're going to ask them for that full amount. And maybe even because it's a special day of giving, could you do a little more? And so we have two audiences. We have two different stories. I'll pause there. Any feedback on that?
Yeah, well, I'm checking out on our Q&A thing. I see a few questions here. Let me see if they apply to this. We can maybe take a few things here.
Yeah. For the first one, Carolyn Howard's on a roll, but maybe I'll answer this one. How do we differentiate Giving Tuesday from other days of giving? Do we have a different approach? We have campaigns going all the time, and we use Giving Tuesday in a lot of our segments and audiences, and we say, is there a good story that we can tell them where we think Giving Tuesday could be a moment that is more inspiring to them to give than what we've been asking? So yes, we kind of fold our audiences into Giving Tuesday, but one thing that we do is we find a donor who might do a matching gift, and it could be any size. Like you could do $1,000, you could do, you know, for us, if we can get $50,000 matching gift, that's amazing. maybe
Mhm.
someone that might even be willing to do that gift this year, and you just say, hey, can we use your gift as a story to say, anytime someone makes a gift, and here's how we're doing this at Notre Dame this year. If you
Yeah.
make a gift of $35 or more, someone will add $50 to it, up to $50,000. And so that person that says, that new donor that says, why would my $20 gift matter? First of all, we told you gifts of $200 or less last year fully funded the financial aid scholarships of 57 students. So that $20 gift does matter. But
Right.
if you were to give $15 more and get to 35, you can help us unlock another $50. Your $35 gift is now worth 85. And then they go, whoa, I can start to see how that can add up, right? And so we
Yeah.
talk about how many donors have done this, and we have this kind of story around like, help us unlock this match. We need you to give so we can get access to this match.
Right.
And we found that those are really powerful stories. This second question about crafting appeals to young alumni and recent grads, that's historically a really tough population because these people are paying student loans and things like that. And
Yeah.
again, we have found with them, we have found at Notre Dame, we'll get into this in a second, but
Yeah, I was just gonna say the next question kind of will address this, but yeah, go on.
oh yeah, it's like we've found that like talking a lot about tradition and experience, like your college experience here at Notre Dame, like and the fact that 70% of Notre Dame students receive financial aid. Imagine if 70% of the people you knew here weren't able to be here. Like, help welcome the next generation of the Fighting Irish with a gift of any size. And if you make a gift of $35 or more, you'll help us unlock this match.
Exactly. And you're kind of essentially building up your pipeline early with those young alumni so that you can go back to them in subsequent years and ask for, maybe a little bit more and as they're growing in their careers and they have more expendable income to give back. Awesome.
Yeah. And so yeah, go ahead.
Go on. No, you go. You
I
had your
think-
hands waved and everything.
No, I hope it's helpful to see the new donor or like the donor who's kind of been on or off. There's removing the barrier of entry and saying that kind of like make a gift of any size.
Yeah.
Again, when we do that, historically that gift is $35, $37. So now when we go back out to that same population, we say, please make your gift of any size. And if it's at least $35, if you at least hit the average, you lock this match. When we do that, we see the people who were giving 5, 10, 15, they come up to 35, and now it raises our average gift.
Right. Yeah. What's $20 more on top of the 15 you already planning on give, and then it's matched, so it's like you're kind of
exactly
leaving a little carrot incentive there for
that's right.
Yeah. Awesome.
So you're getting more out of
I was just going to say the $37 average point is kind of like exactly between 25 and 50. So I was curious. I was like, oh, 37. Why is that the average? It's a strange number, but that makes sense.
It's just been that way for us. And like, this is a great way to lower the barrier of entry for giving to your organization, but also kind of setting like the, give as much as you can, and then from like what we call our renewal population, the donors who gave last year, the donors who have already given this year, Giving Tuesday, opportunity to say, like, whether you gave last or whether you gave a month ago, like, could you give a little more and help us unlock this match? And you can drive incremental revenue because of Giving Tuesday. Remember, it's a moment that we build to, and that's why it's been so important for us.
Yeah, it's not a single, big event. It's something that you're building up to, and even afterwards, and I'm sure we'll talk about this in a bit, but even afterwards, it's not like, there's a hard stop and that's it. No more giving. We don't want any more donations kind of thing. So before we get into that, I did want to talk more about the audiences and how your storytelling to those different audiences. I think what's probably going through a lot of our audience's head is, how are you even identifying those audiences, and how are you telling, or how are you figuring out what stories to tell those specific audiences? I think it's probably clearer to you because I think there's just a history of giving at Notre Dame, so it wasn't necessarily something that you might have had to figure out. But maybe you could talk more towards our audience that might not, maybe this is their first Giving Tuesday. I see someone in the chat. I think it was Let's see. Jude Harris was saying this is their first time participating in Giving Tuesday as a nonprofit. How should they be identifying those audiences and figuring out what stories to tell them?
Yeah. So like, I think figuring out your audiences is, I don't know what data you have, but you could always start simplest is who already gives and who do you know that could give but doesn't give, is kind of that's kind of, we call those recruit. We want to recruit these people to give, renew. We want to renew these people who have given. That's a good place to start. You break those up, especially like at a university. You could say like, which of those people are young alumni? Which of those people are alumni or non-alumni? And like, you just start going down that rabbit hole of segmentation. And I think the magic is like, number one, just start simple. Just start simple. Just start saying, are new donors, existing donors. And if we just start there, you just got to, you want to start building kind of your communications, your solicitation schedule. So I know we have a slide on that. And this is something our team does for every campaign.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you could tell us more about like just the kind of schedule, your testing methodology, how you build out campaigns, how you see what works and what doesn't work. But yeah, let you take it away.
So for example, the kind of coral covered boxes here that say Giving Tuesday under them. This is what we send Giving Tuesday, like on the day of. That's kind of the back end of our fundraising campaign, really. About a week out from Giving Tuesday, we're going to send messages, and I'm going to loop back to that. A couple days before Giving Tuesday, we're going to say like, hey, here's how we're doing. Like, get your gift in before Giving Tuesday, because again, we're building to that moment. And then on Giving Tuesday, we say, it's here. We've already done this much. Help us keep going. When you make your gift of X, you unlock this match. Like, there's no better time. Please, please, please. Midday, Giving Tuesday, we shout out like an update. We say like, folks, like, 89 people have chosen to give today. Like, there's so many more of you, like, as you're on lunch today, maybe hold back that Starbucks coffee and help do some good in the world, whatever you want to say. We'll get to that. Towards the end of the day, we say, last chance. Like, this is your last chance to make your gift. Here's one thing that we should all learn from that was so good for us and has proved itself time and time again. This last Giving Tuesday in our success email, we tested an idea where we said, we left our giving open and we said, success, look at all the great stuff you've done. Here's our stats. And then we put PS. If you still want to be a part of Giving Tuesday, we'll leave the form open until Saturday for you. And we just sent that email. 10% of our total donations on Giving Tuesday were from people reading that PS message, clicking that link and saying, shoot, I missed out. Like, people love to be a part of success. And so when they see this celebration, they're like, I want to be able to say I was a part of that. I'll pitch in now too. Like, looks like I was the one that they have a little FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yeah.
But the most important thing that's helped teach us a lot of this is this first email that I put called the test. And your institution, big, small, higher ed, not higher ed, nonprofit, whatever it is, any just general communications, where we do a lot of our learning is we trigger our first campaign. We do a big test. And if we go to the next slide, I can illustrate what it looks like. We basically take our audience, and let's say we take about 30% of them in that first email we're going to send. I know that there's a question up here about like, what's one of the best communication channels? Email is, I think ultimately we test everywhere, and campaigns should be multi-channel, but email is really one of the best fundraising tools still.
Yeah.
We'll try on our first email, that one that said the test. Let's say we send that email today at 5 p.m. Let's say today is the day that email goes and it's going to go at 5 p.m. Well, yesterday we would have taken about 30% of that total population and we would have tried a few different stories. One might have been around, we usually like single words or phrases to describe them, but one might be around, we're going to ask them to make their gift on Giving Tuesday in a tone that plays to nostalgia. And might be like, you know, we might reference back to things at Notre Dame, like at Notre Dame, as you know, at Notre Dame, you know, like this institution has been doing X, Y, and Z for and your time here. And we try to play to their feelings about how they feel about Notre Dame. And the question is, that what they'll respond to? Another test might be urgency. We might say like, we really need to urgently raise these funds before the end of the calendar year so that we can do this thing. You see this in political fundraising where it's like deadline, deadline, deadline. And they know that the deadline works because they test that message. But right after the deadline, stories start to feel more like we're going to be able to do this and we're going to be able to change the world. And then something happens in the news and the narrative changes. And so what we do is we test a bunch of different concepts in that first email, 2, 3, 4, 5. And whatever one drove the most gifts or drove the most clicks or whatever we want to measure, that's the tone that we use for the rest of the series of emails or communications.
Fascinating. Is there a way that you're segmenting? So you say like, you know, your whole audience, and then you're sending story test A to 30%, story test B to 50%, story test C to 10%, whatever it is. Are you segmenting the audience within those percentages, or is it a mix of all different kinds of donors? You know, young alumni,
we've done it a bunch
alumni, repeated donors.
We've done randomized splits. If we were doing like trying to test 2 different things we have one big pool and we're like, is this idea better than this one? We would take anybody who has their ID number ends in a odd number, they're in that group. If they're an even number, they're in that group. You know, so we've done a bunch of different stuff and we try to make it as simple as possible. And we've found a lot of the things that we thought were right were wrong. And we've learned a ton where we presume that that's the best way to talk about something. And it's not. And frankly, for a lot of us who are in the room, we have other people that challenge our ideas a lot. And they say like, I don't want to see it like this. I want to see it like that. And when you have data to show, well, hey, I hear you. You're the boss, or you're a key stakeholder here. But this is the test. We sent 3 different ideas. This was the winner. And so the data tells us this is the best way to go. And for people who have to make things happen, it's a really good tool to have in your pocket to be able to say, hey, data doesn't lie, you know, and it's some ammo for you to use to help to push your campaigns forward.
Right. Are you also, in terms of segmenting, I guess it's possible to do this, but specifically for you, are you also doing these tests for, like, do you have multiple different story types for just young alumni and then multiple different story types for, you know, repeat donors, and then you're testing per audience in a sense?
Yeah, 100%. So there's a lot of, these are our people here. We got questions about young alumni and things like that. And for example, like we've had to, just in the young alumni space, we have messages we've tried around when we typically see, sorry, I was just getting caught up there.
There's a lot of really good questions here, and I've been trying to like pay attention to what you're saying, but also read the questions and figure out if I can feed them in here. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff.
So what I was saying, like for like young alumni, for example, we're going to talk to them about like, when you come back to Notre Dame, and if you like make a gift at this level, you'll join a giving society and you can share Notre Dame with your new colleagues and friends. You know, you've taken a job in Atlanta and you want to come back with your friends. You have a place to host them, you know, or like if you donate to this thing, we have a party every football game and you could be at it. Sometimes like they might like that transactional stuff. Some students like the fact that they can give to the residence hall they lived in. So we've done a lot of like, would you rather give to A, B, or C? And now we can say like young alumni prefer to give to these things. And so we can build campaigns around that at strategic times during the year. But we just, everything that we're curious about, like we find it, if we're like, would they rather do this or that? We go, oh, we should test it. And that's just what our culture has become. We're like, oh, put that on the thing, the kind of the docket to go test. There's a question here, really easy answer. Do you have statistics around when you typically see alumni start to give? Someone graduates, September, October, that year that they graduate is usually the best time. They're usually in their job a month or two, and they feel like, they've kind of moved to wherever they're going to go live. And then that definitely picks up as you reach towards the end of the calendar year. It's a quick answer to that.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Okay, well, I'll give you a little bit of a break. I know you've just been talking for about a half hour, and I want to give you a little bit of a rest. So Ria, I'm going to turn to you. Let's talk a little bit about how to put these ideas into practice from more the lens of community. So how can organizations use Hivebrite to share these stories and engage their community and potential donors on Giving Tuesday, outside of just the standard email campaign kind of level of communication?
Right. Absolutely. And that's a great question. And what's great about a community engagement platform like Hivebrite is that you can do everything kind of in one place, right? So all the moving parts to a successful Giving Tuesday, they all work together seamlessly, and it makes that administrative overhead less burdensome. So I'm going to mention a lot of different features. You definitely don't need to use every single one to be successful on Giving Tuesday. What you're going to want to do is focus your energy and resources on the pieces that make the most sense for your organization. And if you're not a Hivebrite customer yet, that's okay. There's good info here for everybody, whether you're at Second Harvest Food Bank down in North Carolina, or the Coalition Women Against Violence Society up in Vancouver, Alumni Relations at Ontario Tech, wherever you are, whether you have a staff of 100 or you are it, there's going to be some good info in here for you. So I encourage you to take some notes and that kind of thing. So going back to kind of those storytelling strategies and the solicitation schedules that Brandon was just talking about, let's assume that you've identified a really powerful story about a donor's impact on your local community, that your organization is serving. And so what you've decided to do for Giving Tuesday and kind of leading up to Giving Tuesday is you want to write a biography about your donor. You want to record a video testimonial from an individual that was helped by either the donor's gift or by your organization. You want to host an in-person panel discussion, let's say, with community leaders and representatives from your organization, and you want to stream that for your chapters in other cities who can't attend in person. So let's talk about how to use those different storytelling channels on Hivebrite to share that story with your potential donors, and how to really inspire them to support your organization on Giving Tuesday and beyond Giving Tuesday. So first up, you're going to write an article in the news module for your donor's biography. The news article is going to be published to your global news feed, and that's great. But you can do so much more with just that single article. It doesn't just need to live there on your news feed. So you can automatically, with that single article that you're writing, you can automatically create live feed posts. And the live feed on Hivebrite is kind of like, it's analogous kind of to a social media feed, right? So similar to what you see when you log into Facebook and you see all of your, the content that's special for you.
Exactly.
And you can also, so with those live feed posts, what that's going to do is generate a notification for your users. So they'll see that on their phone, they'll see it on their email. Oh, there's a new post about this individual. So I want to read about this guy. I've heard about him. I know he's active in the community. Let's see what he's doing for Second Harvest or what have you. And then beyond that, you can also automatically pull that news article into an email campaign that you're sending.
Right.
You can syndicate that article across your group's network. So if there is, if there are, if you have multiple people maybe that you're highlighting in different areas of the country or different regions, you could push, if someone is really active in, let's say, the Northeast, you can syndicate that news article to your groups that are in the Northeast, and then they can publish that within their groups. They can use it, and import that into an email campaign newsletter, that kind of thing. What's cool about news articles is your users can like them, comment them, reply to comments, like comments. They can share right from the news article directly to their own Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter feeds. So you're sharing, your users are engaging in sharing your stories. So it's really pretty powerful.
I
and
think
then
the analogy there for folks that aren't necessarily on Hivebrite and the takeaway here is being able to create reusable content. So like you create this one article, this one piece of content, whether it's a video, article, anything like that, and it's shareable across all social
Exactly. Yeah.
channels,
Yeah.
be it in
Yeah.
email or
Mhm.
in a post on Facebook, a post on LinkedIn, a post wherever else.
Yeah. And you may have a partner organization, within your community that you work together with a lot, and they may have,
Yeah.
let's say they have a WordPress site for their web presence, as opposed to a community platform like Hivebrite.
Mhm.
They can pull in your news article via an RSS feed to their website, so you're still sharing
Exactly.
that content and
Yep.
getting that story out there. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, along those lines, so we've got our news article written, right? So next
Yes.
step we're going to record a video, we're going to post that, publish it to YouTube. And then what you can do there is, well, first of all, make sure that you're creating a call to action within the video. At the end, hey, be sure to give today, click the link, put the link to your giving page in the description. So always think about having that call to action in any of the storytelling channels that you have, because that all it takes is one story that someone connects to go, oh yeah, I'm really passionate about this organization, about this particular story, and I'm going to donate. So you always want to have that option to donate right there in front of them, whatever the channel is, because that way you're going to capture them right away. Exactly. They're not going to go, oh, this is a really cool YouTube video. Oh shoot, how did I get to that? Who sent me that? How can I wonder where I go to give. So
yeah,
just
exactly.
make
You want
sure
to
that
make
you're
it as
thinking through
easy as
those things.
possible, or removing all the barriers to
Exactly.
entry, so that you don't have to go
Right.
digging and then suddenly they lose interest because, oh, I can't find where to give. I don't even know if that's the right place, kind of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. So you want to capture them at that moment of where they're most engaged with the story. So, frictionless giving is a term that you'll hear. So,
Yes.
but yeah, so, and what's cool is with that YouTube video, just like you could with a news article, you can post that to your live feed. You can embed it in a news article. You can add it to a page that's built on Hivebrite. And again, if you're using that news article, you can, people can like and comment. And so you're engaging people in the conversation around the story. And they're going to buy in more to it because they're involved in it. And then, I talked a little bit about, let's say you're going to have this panel discussion, let's say on Giving Tuesday, maybe, or right before. And you can, build your event registration form, write in Hivebrite, just like with the news articles, again, post them to your live feed, have users share that event registration form to their personal social media feeds, pull that automatically into an email campaign that you're sending information about the event with that, event registration. You can also include an online location, like a webinar link within the registration form, so that people who aren't able to attend in person can attend, virtually, whether that's in a Zoom call or another webinar type of service. And so you're able to reach more people that way. Similar to the news articles, you can comment on events and you can like comments and reply to people. So you're generating excitement around an event, and it's just that seamless integration. There's also on our event tool, you can add an optional donation to an event registration form. And again, anywhere you want to have that call to action.
Yeah, and I think maybe you're going to mention this, but similar to news, you can also syndicate these webinars in the same way we're going to syndicate this specific webinar and post it later on.
Exactly.
You can host that webinar, record it, and that's content that you can utilize in your content calendar. Keep sharing out and adding that call to action to.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's really pretty cool. So yeah, and then you can also, you can choose to host your giving form on Hivebrite as well. So you have all these little pieces work together, and really easily. And we're going to talk about email too in a little bit, but I do want to mention that, like, all of these things that we're talking about for Giving Tuesday, all these things, so news articles and live feed posts, and that user engagement, all of that is stuff that you can continue and should continue to do throughout the year. So continue building community, continue sharing those stories. Use the platform to create special content and access for, like, last year's donors. Let's say you're getting ready for next year's Giving Tuesday. You know who donated, especially if you're you can very quickly see who donated if you're using Hivebrite for your donations platform as well. and you can target your email campaigns. You can target content to those folks, and give them special access as a thank you, or host an event that's just for them kind of throughout the year. And again, keep them engaged with your organization and get them psyched for next year when it's time for Giving Tuesday to come around again. So.
Excellent. Great. Thank you so much for that very thorough answer, but I'm going to ask you
Absolutely.
to dig a little bit deeper. Could you
Sure.
give me some specific examples of what you just mentioned with terms, with respect to those, news posts, events, et cetera, et cetera?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But also I want to be just really quick, mindful of time, because I do want to leave some time at the end for Q&A, but I know we have a lot to get through. So
yeah,
maybe
for
just
sure.
one or two big examples.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to do is, whether you are a staff of one or you have a huge volunteer network, and you've got a lot of groups and chapters and clubs kind of spread out everywhere. Regardless, I think the most important thing to do early on is establish what your communication plan is going to be. Use the strategies that Brandon provided about, your scheduling of your solicitations, and when are you going to post? What are you going to post? When are you sending it? What is that content going to be? And really map that out, from email campaigns to when you're going to do live feed posts, when you're going to host a webinar. How often are you going to post to social media? Are you going to engage, Facebook, Instagram, whatever? So just make sure that you have that kind of on lockdown, and that it's a reasonable amount of work. If you're one person, that you can manage all of that, but that it's also, if you've got a big group of folks that are going to be helping out with this, that it's very clear to them as well. And so, like, a specific example of, kind of sharing that communication plan. Let's say if you have even a small army of people helping you out, is creating email templates, kind of already giving them kind of pre-designed, consistent feeling news articles to share, and targeted messaging for email campaigns, creating templates of targeted emails that they can very easily repurpose and maybe make minor edits to, or no edits at all, and send that out. Give them a schedule of when to send that out. Oh gosh, I mean, we could talk about email forever, but and then the main thing too is, as you're thinking about all these stories and the really specific examples, make sure, I said this before, make sure that you are including that give now link, whether it's on an event registration form, it's a button in email, it is a link to a social media post, what have you, that you're always, that is your focus. The story really is the meat of what you're doing, but if your story is compelling enough to inspire someone to want to give, you want to give them that opportunity to do that right then and there. So yeah, and we're going to talk a little bit more about email, but things like make sure that it's nice and clean and short, not too long, and you have that call to action. Personalize your greetings, so it's not like, dear potential donor. It's like, hi Joe, filtering your audience and really targeting those communications, because you may think, oh, I've got 100,000 people I could potentially email. Are those people all going to resonate? Is that message going to resonate with all of them, or is it going to resonate with a small subset? Well, then target that subset and really make that content really compelling for them. So, but yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the
You're
insight.
welcome. Sure.
So this next question, I'm going to kind of go back to Brandon for a second. I know he's typing up an answer to one of our Q&As, so I apologize for interrupting you. But I want to ask, and I think this is going to be one of the questions that's going to yield some of the best answers for our audience. I'm really excited to get into this. Could you dive really deep, specifically into the tips you have for optimizing email campaigns? We talked a bit about testing and things like that, but I think where a lot of our audience is going to get roadblocked or maybe overwhelmed is figuring out what to actually put in those tests, like what even works if you've never done Giving Tuesday before, or any kind of structured fundraising campaign in this sense. Obviously, Giving at Notre Dame is a year-round thing. Giving Tuesday is just one facet of your fundraising. So I think you have a lot of experience in setting up these campaigns and knowing what works and what doesn't. So could you share some kind of insider information to help our other nonprofits here kind of get ahead of the game and not stress too much about making the perfect email campaign.
That's right. Yeah. Number one, like anybody can do this. And like just start right here. Number one, make a little branded header. Like for us, we just did Giving Tuesdays kind of logo. It's like the kind of the heart. We put it in Notre Dame's colors, and we put it at the top of the email. So it's like Notre Dame Giving Tuesday, tied together, simple. Riaz, you said we address them by name, Dear Antonio. We find that buttons are usually your friend. So when we have like in-text links and buttons, or an image that has like kind of a button on it, 70% of the clicks, when you have the option, people choose to click the button. So like easy stuff, right? Number one, or this could probably be number one, don't waste words and get to the point. So we have this kind of rule on our team that's don't waste words and don't waste your audience's time. We're always looking for opportunities to get to the point faster and faster. There's a statistic that says people read like 26% of a web page. So I ask our writers, whatever you feel like you should write, just write 26% of it, and then people will read it, right? So those few things, let's build on it too. Let's build on this. So next slide. If you're going to put an image in there, get the ask always above the image. So if the ask is make a gift, a lot of times we like to show like we feel like we're going to build a case, and we're going to say like, in this case, Dear Anna, the university is so beautiful this fall, and the leaves are falling off the trees, and yada yada yada. And so, and then we show the picture of the trees, and then we get into like the story, and at the bottom it's like, so after you take this big breath, so will you make a gift? And a lot of people never got down to that point. They're just like something about fall and leaves and trees and students and whatever, and they next. So what we have found is we say something more like, Dear Anna, Giving Tuesday is coming up, and this global celebration is your opportunity to advance the work of Notre Dame and her students forever. Make a gift. Show the picture of the leaves in the fall, and then go, fall is bustling at campus, and students are, at work more than ever, doing the research and critical things in the world, blah, blah, blah. And then go elaborate a little more. Pro tip number 3 coming up after this. After that, ask them to give a gift. So you could say, in this Giving Tuesdays here, it says International Celebration of Philanthropy. And this year we're asking you to help advance our important work by making a gift of any size, by renewing your gift of X, by expanding your giving to this, whatever that ask is.
Oh, Brandon, did we lose you? He's frozen a little bit.
It's frozen a little bit.
Yeah, but I know he was going to mention typing out the URL there. Some folks are a little bit skittish about, and I see Brandon, you're back, you're nodding, but I know what you're going to say here. Some folks I can feel a little skittish about pressing a link or an image or a button or whatever, and not necessarily knowing if there's link tracking attached to it, and may feel weird about that. So typing out the URL can allow the user to just copy paste it themselves, so that they're not, fear of being tracked or anything like that. So you're kind of opening up the window of opportunity to more people that might be more worried about privacy and things like that.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. And then here we put a story. I put your gift matters. Last year gifts of $200 or less. So if the email content above is like, let's pretend that fall image was here, and we wanted to say, like, please make a gift of any size to the university so we can do this thing, like donate. And then it's like, this year we have this great match that'll expand the impact of your gift. And we talked about all that. But like, we have so many things we want to talk about. We're trying to tell you a story about the match. We're trying to tell you about a gift of any size will help us accomplish this thing we're trying to accomplish. And then it's like, we also want to tell you about, we know this story here. Last year, gifts of 200 or less fully funded the financial aid packages of 57 students. Like, we've always struggled to be like, we have all these things to say. How do we say it? We put that in the PS. And the PS is like, usually people read the opening line of your email, Dear Miguel, blah, 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 donate, skip everything else, go to the PS. So we always try to put like another nugget, another story, like a slightly different twist in case you weren't convinced up top. We build the case and then we kind of reintroduce it to you at the bottom.
Yeah.
Spelling out the URL, great practice. I think we got one more slide, maybe. Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
Share your success. So you're gonna build to this moment and you're gonna say, like, we did it. Like, it's so cool. We raised $317,000 and 981 donors gave. And because of that, 13 scholarships were unlocked. 13 scholarships awarded. Really cool thing you can do with this at the end. You got to find a way to connect the impact of the money that was raised to the money that was raised is going to accomplish this. Next year, let's say I made these stats up, but if we did $317,000 on Giving Tuesday last year and it unlocked 13 scholarships, this year I would be asking my team, folks, should we be saying last year on Giving Tuesday we unlocked 13 scholarships? Help us get to 20 by making your gift today. That story, again, that's a story. That story will drive more dollars and donors. So don't forget to share your success with people. And then remember, at the end, I put, with love, Brandon. P.S. It's not too late to celebrate Notre Dame and Giving Tuesday. Make your gift now at this address, and we'll make sure you unlock matching funds for Notre Dame students. Again, that P.S. drove 10% of our donations on Giving Tuesday last year. So we implement it all the time now. When we have deadline-driven campaigns, boom.
Tried and true. That's awesome to hear. So I know we have just 2 minutes for the Q&A session, but I think we answered a lot of questions kind of as we were going along. So I think it's okay if we go a little bit over here, and we'll keep trying to answer questions as we answer, or as we go along. But really quick, is the amount of funds raised the only metric that should be considered to determine the success of your campaign, or are there other things? And I know the answer to this, but I would love if you could share your perspective. And this is both to Rhea and Brandon. Feel free to jump in here.
Yeah, the short answer is no. It's not. And depending on where you are in your organization's life cycle, you may be just starting out. This may be your very first year doing Giving Tuesday. Maybe, so it's not about the dollars raised, it's about engagement. And hey, we've reached 100 people in our community. We got 10 people to give this year. That's amazing. We raised X number of dollars. Is that the only driver of success? No, but you had a successful campaign that first year. The next year, are you building on that? Are you telling more stories? Are you getting more people involved? Do you have more volunteers coming to work at your organization? Are you increasing the number of new donors? Are you increasing the size of the gifts for repeating donors? All that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of different things. You could even look at how many events are we hosting related to Giving Tuesday or throughout the year? How many emails did we send out? What were the open rates of those emails? What were the click-through rates? What really worked for us this year to be successful that we can implement again next year and build on? Yeah,
and it's the kind of similar to the answer about getting young alumni and younger donors involved. You're kind of, I don't want to say baiting them, but going after them with the ask of donate any amount, and then you have them as a new donor for that year, and then your pipeline is built up for subsequent years to come. So great. Yeah, Brandon, anything to add there?
We find the wildest, like anytime we're doing this, if we're all together in the office and we can write a bunch of wild goals, we'll do stuff like average gift size, largest gift size, most gifts in an hour. We look at like anytime we'll say like, hey, anytime we get a gift of say $500 or more, we have a bell. It's like a big bell. And we made this thing where like when we were having like a campaign running, and that gift of $500 came in, someone gets to ring the bell, and bing, as soon as the bell goes off in our office, you hear our annual giving team is 30 people. You hear 30 people go, woo! So we call it ding woo. We call it ding woo. It's like, hey, we got to get as many ding woos as we can today. And so like we find just things to make it so fun, because fundraising is hard, right? And it's a lot of work, and you're like, you got to play to the nice Rick. Wow. We deal with the economy. We have all these things, it's a grind. So for us, we're just like, we're going to make it as fun as possible. We find all these things to celebrate. And like, really what we do is as soon as this campaign's done, we look for what is every win and what's everything that we're going to learn from this.
And what are all those stories that you can share in subsequent campaigns?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Awesome.
And you know what? We would go back out, for example, to all those people that gave $500, let's say, in that campaign, and we all did the ding, woo. Like, I would argue that it's a good idea to the next year to send them an email with a picture of the bell and say, last year, for every person that made a gift on Giving Tuesday, we ring this bell in celebration of their gift. You were one of those people that we wooed. Will you please make that $500 gift again this year so we can ring the bell and like do X work, right?
And that goes back into like the fear of missing out. People want to be a part of that fun, successful, like, yeah, I'll let you ring the bell again. It's like, we buy a round of shots, essentially. Like, oh, I'll buy this $500 gift, and everyone's happy. Awesome.
It's so authentic and so like familiar when, like they're in, right? They're a part of it. They're known, they're remembered. So people love that.
Awesome. So I have one more quick question. What would you say are the biggest challenges? And I think this kind of leads into some of the questions I saw in the Q&As. People were talking about, and I know you might answer, but I haven't gotten a chance to read your text, but people were asking about, how do you dig into that nostalgia for their alma mater if they maybe weren't on campus during COVID? What are just other challenges in collecting donations today, similar to that you found, and how do you kind of overcome that?
I answered as many questions in the chat. And that one specifically was like, how would you, our students weren't on campus because of COVID and there's not a lot of nostalgia here. I would say your testing would have tested that concept out. Like maybe nostalgia is not it, but maybe the story for them is it better is nostalgia better than, maybe there's a story about, you are the most resilient class of students in the history because of this thing. And so why don't you band together and help create a scholarship for a student who needs, who needs the help? And like, I'm going to lean towards that's probably going to do better than nostalgia with that group, but we don't know. And so just keep trying those ideas. Knowing your audience is really important, right? So we talked about like young alumni a lot and how they behave. There's some questions about like age demographics, and like even like payment methods, right? Like there's all this stuff. And so you just gotta like look at the data, like do a campaign, look at it, and just look at it from a bunch of different dimensions and start to learn about your audience. I can tell you that we can raise more money from an older generation through direct mail. But like a lot of them that don't respond, like a follow-up email, and they'll give off the follow-up email because they might have their mail pile might be too big. And then like young people like to get an email, but a text reminder, and then they'll go back to the email that they got and click the button and give, right? So like we've just kind of watched and learned from the data. I'd say the most important thing you can do, and this is where Hivebrite's great, is because it's this platform that gives you the ability to tell stories, but it's find your stories. And like, again, no story is too small. There's no story too small. Gifts of $200 or less, funded financial aid packages for 57 students. That is the story I tell every single person that goes, my donation doesn't matter. You're a university that has all this stuff. And it does. It sure does. Your $500 gift, like help us ring the bell. That's a story that's going to get you another $500 gift year after year. Absolutely. And when you find stories in your organization or people that are benefiting from your work, even if it's just you holding a phone and just putting it on social media, but like regularly do that. Be like, this is so great. Like, hi, I'm here, even just do like a little video. I'm out here seeing this thing, like I'm so proud of the work people are doing in the community to solve this problem, and it's so great. Like, thank you so much. You just did a story. You did it. Put it on social media, and over time, people are going to see that, and they're going to believe in you, and they're going to trust you. And when you ask them to make their first gift, they're going to go, "Yeah, you're doing awesome stuff. I'm in." Just tell your stories.
And I think sorry, I just want to add real quick, Ahmed. Part of knowing your audience too, it's not just about the data, it's really asking them for their own stories, asking them to share, listening to those people, paying attention to comments that people are putting on social, pay attention to comments that they're adding to, you know, any of the tools in Hivebrite, if you're using Hivebrite, and respond to those, whether it's individually or just, you know, have it influence your thinking and your strategy for storytelling and for sharing your successes and that kind of thing. I think that's really important too, because if your audience feels like their voice matters and their experience matters, and it's not just their dollars that matter to you, I think you're much more likely to get and keep them engaged.
Yeah, and one of the questions I see in the Q&A here kind of links into one of these different challenges that people might have these days. Emails with a lot of links, images, you know, click here, do this now. Gmail is getting a lot smarter about filtering those things out and either putting them in that promotions tab if you have that feature enabled, or sometimes just sending it straight to spam. Is that an issue that you run into often with your campaigns or testing, or is that kind of part of the testing? Maybe you have analytics around which tests are opened more or less based on what content's in them?
Yeah, so for the sender IP address, it has a score. I think it's called like an IP score, and
Right.
It is important. And so like when we go to do this, we send a lot of engagement stewardship type of emails before we do soliciting, and like it should really be like a, you know, 4-to-1 or 5-to-1, like, you know, engagement. So we see a lot of, we get our open rates up and kind of our email engagement up, because we're sending them things like, hey, like gifts to the fund you gave to at Notre Dame last year, like did this thing, like here's a student who benefited from that, like a quick quote from them, and the student says a thing, and we just say, you know, thank you so much for making that possible. And it was like delightful email, that was easy. We send people emails with like digital downloads. So like every month we'll say, I think around like Halloween, we had like pumpkin carving kits that were like Notre Dame branded things, and you print it at home, you can tape it to a pumpkin, and it was just like, oh, that's great. So they're opening the email, and it builds trust with their inbox and your IP address. And then when you start to send solicitations, they're not like, but yes, you got to be careful about the words you choose. Like the word exclusive is teeter-totters for some people. We don't put a bunch of buttons. We put like, that's why I had a text link, a single button, and an image. Like the image is going to be some cases, but yeah, you want to find a delicate balance of how you do all that stuff.
Excellent. Okay, so I think we are just about up on time, and I want to say that we addressed all, if not most, of the questions. Any last minute tips, parting statements? Thank you all for joining in our audience. We appreciate all the questions that were really great, thought-provoking things. The
last thing that I want to leave attendees with is, you can do this. Even if it's just you, if you're one person, you can do this. There are resources available to you, whether those are with community partners, if you're a Hivebrite customer with Hivebrite, or any number of things. You can do this, and you can be successful, whether this is your first Giving Tuesday or your 10th Giving Tuesday. So hang in there, and you'll do great.
I'd say, but are we able to share the graphics and the slides with folks so they can?
I believe, yeah, those will be shared next week along with the recording of the webinar, so people can always jump back in and check things out. But I hope that everyone in the audience appreciated the session. I hope that everyone found something valuable here, some takeaways, so that you can get prepared for Giving Tuesday later this month. But other than that, thank you both, Brandon and Ria, for your time. Really appreciate it, and really appreciate, again, everyone in the audience for attending and sending in those great questions. And with that, I'm going to call it. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and have a great rest of your Thursday.
Ding woo!
Bye, everybody.
Bye.